love someone? Have you ever cared? Do you miss someone?
Hello again, I'm Dr. Hung Vu, and our show is America's Healthcare Crisis. Tonight, I'd like to invite you to watch the first part of a series of productions on stress. Stress, of course, is a common topic of discussion in our society. From a medical perspective, stress could be viewed as the emotional equivalent of physical pain. Occasionally, in the course of daily living, we encounter certain stressful circumstances that make our heart beat a little bit faster and our breathing heavier. Those are normal physiologic responses by which our body tells us that we are emotionally alive. However, when stress exceeds a certain level of tolerance, it can induce a sickness. In my many years of practice as a primary care physician, I have observed that stress-induced illnesses are the most common. On the other hand, a significant stress can sometimes challenge our emotional makeup and help us grow to become better and stronger human beings. This is where our character, our system of beliefs, and our values come into play. Stress in general either comes from the home, the workplace, or else it comes from beyond the home and the workplace. For tonight's discussion, we'd like to talk about stress in the home. And to help me with this task, I have with me two excellent speakers who are courageous and resourceful individuals who have been able to cope with the demands of being both a professional and a parent. So I'd like to introduce them. Greg Ann Heron is a real estate broker in Los Altos. Good evening. How are you, Greg Ann?
Just fine.
Thanks for coming. It's good to see you tonight.
You're welcome.
Welcome to our show. Greg Ann, of course, is a mother of three. And our second speaker is Mick Gardner. Hi, Mick.
Hi, Dr. Vu.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Mick
Glad
has
to be
been with
here.
us on a different show before. I'm very delighted to have him here again tonight. And Mick is an adoption consultant, and he's a father of two. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, why don't you guys tell us briefly about what has happened recently in your homes that have created some chaos and some excessive stress?
Okay, I'll start off. I think more than anything, a lot of times when you wake up in the morning, your day begins with stress. It's created from the fact that you place a lot of expectations on situations that occur. You look forward to certain things that occur in the course of the day. And the stress begins to build from the time that you get out of the bed. You go into the shower, you get your kids ready for school, and all these expectations are beginning to mount in your place, and you're saying, well, is this going to occur? Is that going to occur? And from that point, the stress begins, and then it just increases as the day goes on. When you mentioned in your opening that it occurs in the home and in the workplace, that's absolutely correct. In a lot of cases, when you do get to that particular point from the stress occurring in the home, you carry it into the workplace. It's no one, you can't put just one type of finger on a certain situation. It's always going to be something that's there, and it's always going to be something that every day will create a different crisis situation.
Right. Just tell us briefly what happened the last time that stressed you out and make you bang on the door or, whatever.
A good instance was this morning. I was getting my kids, really prepared me for today's show. Getting my kids ready this morning, probably after a week of them being out of school, no one was ready for school today. And being a single parent and all, you have to get to a point where you begin to start preparing them to get up and get ready, and no one wanted to get ready this morning.
How old are your kids, by the way?
My kids are 16 and 10,
okay,
which should be in a normal situation, a little bit responsibility added on to that. And so the first stress situation occurs then, because I wanted them to be up at a certain time and ready so we can get started so that I can begin my day as well.
And they did not cooperate?
They did not cooperate.
What happened?
I guess it was a weak vacation, Dr.
Oh, I
Vu.
see. So they're slow to
they
get
were
into the
slow. They were
motion.
a little bit slow to get
Uh-huh.
back in the routine of going to
Oh, I see.
school.
So were they late?
No, we got out in time,
Oh, on
but it
time,
was
really?
a stressful situation.
Oh, I see, I
Because
see.
now we're with 10 minutes to go before time for them to start school. We're really rushing like everything
Uh-huh.
to get out of the house.
So it was resolved quickly and peacefully.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah, you'll soon find that that's
Yeah.
normally the way that you handle
Right.
those situations.
Sure. How about you, Gayan?
Well, I was trying to decide what was probably one of the most stressful situations and recently for me, but then something occurred again today, which is normal in my lifestyle, that as I was sharing with you on the way here, that with real estate, a lot of times an offer is either coming in or a counter offer, and I have to take care of my son that needs to be picked up. And again, it happened today. He needed to be picked up at a certain time, and I need to be somewhere at a certain time to have something signed. And usually when the day begins is usually when the stress starts to hit, depending on how the day goes.
Yeah. So actually, it's hard to separate the stress from the home, from the workplace, because they're kind of mixed. When you have stress at work, you bring it home, and vice versa, right?
All the time.
Yeah. That's very interesting. That's kind of an interesting observation, because for me, I have to say that as a family, we function very well. You know, I mean, I'm not married yet, because I'm living with my fiancée, and we have two, you know, she has two daughters, so they are my stepdaughters. And in general, we get along really well. You know, it's just when we have something that creates friction, it's either because we don't agree on certain things, certain values, or we have difficulty communicating those values. You know, we miscommunicate or something like that. But by and large, I have observed that during the past year and a half or so that we lived together, most of the stress came from outside. And we brought it home with us. And we expect a certain support from the other people, but, you know, they are stressed out too. So, I mean, you know, we bump into each other, and, you know, we sort of got into, we did not really blow up, but, you know, we got very angry because we expected a certain amount of I guess DLC,
Support.
whatever we call it, and then we did not have it because, you know, we live in a very stressful world. I mean, my fiancé works very hard. I work very hard. My two stepdaughters, they cope with their pressure in school and everything else. They also work. They're very good kids, actually. They're very exemplary kids. They both have jobs. One is 17, one is 19, but they both go to schools. But, you know, it seems like every day we have a lot of pressure from outside the home and we bring it home.
You were saying earlier that when I was giving you my story of a stressful situation, you asked me, did I blow up? And the comment I wanted to make in reference to that is that a lot of times that's the first indicator for us to misdirect our anger and for us to blow up. I mean, that's the first line of defense when we're in a stressful situation. And I find that when I get to that point, and it happens, I cannot sit here and say that I don't blow up. I mean, it's just human nature to blow up when we get to a stressful point. That's the only way we know how to exert that. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that there are other people that are involved in this situation as well. The people that are reciprocating the stressful situation and you that is channeling it in other areas. So I think that more than anything, we have to learn how to use other techniques in order to overcome the stressful situations. But they're going to happen. They're going to happen. It's just an automatic. It's an impulse that arrives in that particular aspect.
Let me ask you, I think there are two things I have thought of, you know, in getting ready for this show. The first thing is that the people who share the same homes have to agree on the basic definition of what a home is. You know, the physical home, just how it's arranged, how it's organized, the cleanliness, the discipline, the responsibilities that is put into the home has to be shared and has to be agreed upon first. And then after that, you know, we talk about other things, you know, because at one time, my home was me. I was living by myself. And, you know, the home consisted, I mean, I had a very comfortable home, okay, in a nice neighborhood. So, I mean, physically, I was very, you know, happy with where I live. Because I can imagine that somebody who lives in a very bad neighborhood, you know, will be stressed all the time. They have no home because, you know, a bad neighborhood can be very disturbing. So really, to me, the first thing you have to define is that what is a good home physically first, and then you like a dream home, okay? And then, you know, define what constitutes the content of the home, how people live in there and share the same values and communicate those values. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yours right now.
Communicating values at home. Well, I also live with...
Do you have a good physical home that
I have a
you
great
enjoy?
physical home that I enjoy.
You live in Los Altos, right?
I live in Los Altos.
Okay.
And I live close to town, and I enjoy it a lot. It was actually built for me by a family member. But I also am engaged, so I also live with somebody, and it's a new environment for him because the children are mine. And it has become a very learning experience after you have lived quite a while by yourself to try and live with somebody else. And I don't tend to blow up at all. I think they call it riding the broom when I've had too much stress. So I don't yell a lot. I usually I'm not a very happy person to be around when I'm completely stressed. And most of the time I try to laugh it off. For me, that usually works well.
So the
it's always-
stress is created more by the fact that it is too much change for him, and indirectly it you know, it disturbs you. Or how do you define the situation?
I think it's a lot of people living in a smaller space. Obviously, when I moved into the space that I'm living in at the present time, I was not thinking that I was going to have one more person living with us, and now that I have one more person living with us, we're going to be moving to a larger home. But I think that a lot of it is that we carry a lot of work home with us. I in particular tend to work a lot from home, which means it's always there. I live and breathe it. Computers in the master bedroom. I mean,
So all of you are happy with the physical setup of the home,
the physical setup of the home works well.
including your fiancé?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you know, was there any problem with fighting over chores?
No.
No.
He does laundry wonderfully. I should
Oh,
thank his
see.
mom.
You're lucky.
Yes, he does dishes very well as well. So,
How about you?
Well, I have shared custody. I still have that situation as before, and that creates stress.
I see.
Having to deal with your ex in various different situations as far as the kids coming at appropriate time, leaving at appropriate time. And you have to look at the kids themselves because they're in a split situation. So at one point they're with mom and at one point they're with dad, and you attempt to create some type of harmony for the kids within that whole situation. A lot of times, again, going back to the thought of expectations, those situations don't occur like you want them to occur or like you would have in a situation such as you and she just explained.
Yeah.
And so therefore, what is needed in that aspect, again, is communication.
Yeah.
And and you have to break those barriers in order to get beyond your own personal beliefs and do it for the best interests of the family itself.
Yeah. You mentioned the word expectation. It is so appropriate because I remember when I first went into this relationship with my fiancée right now, we obviously had a lot of love or good feeling about each other. But our expectations were totally, we did not communicate the expectations. We went into a relationship with totally different expectations that had to be communicated and has to be sort of eased out. And for me, it created a lot of stress in the sense that each time I look at whatever stress has occurred to me, and in this particular situation, when I came into a home and I become a member, there was a lot of changes for me, sudden changes. Physically speaking, I had to move across the bay, and it created a lot of just physical hard work.
Sure.
It's commuting, and I have been living by myself for like 8 years, and my habits were totally different, and all my business were here. I mean, it was at one time I was driving like probably up to 120, 150 miles a day.
Yeah.
You know, and it was extremely stressful. But what I have come to realize is that even this, when the stress seem to be unsurmountable. I mean, it's really, you know, intolerable. If people really care for each other, eventually they will help each other resolve that stress. There are many situations when we were going to blow up, and the relationship was going to break apart. And that was when, you know, you have to make the choice between having the stress in a family, or having the stress. For me, anyway, I had the choice of being by myself or being with a family. And it was a difficult choice because, you know, I had been very independent. I was very happy by myself. So for me, the definition of my home was totally different from now. This is the first time when I planned to make a home with 3 other people. And each one of them is very strong-willed. Each one of them has their own ways. And it's like, you know, I mean, a little United Nations. And we have to define, sometimes we have to write in papers, you know, making like contract, you know, because we talk and it blow up and we don't communicate. But again, the basic keys for me in terms of having a harmony in my home situation is agreeing on the same values and communicate them in such a way that we agree on the meaning of those values. Is that something that happens with you too? Or?
Yeah, I find that it's easier for me that we sit down and we talk and we communicate, but that's not always easy when you're stressed out to want to say, I want to sit down and talk to you, dear.
Yeah.
Or I don't like what you're doing today, dear, or I don't necessarily agree with you. But it does help to sit down and talk about the values and what your expectations are. Because, of course, when you go into a relationship, there's always expectations. And I think it's very unique when you have somebody that has lived so independently as you have, and then to take on something that I've taken for granted for all these years, taking care of kids alone for all these years.
Yeah.
Which has always been a stressful environment of racing kids to school and different after-school activities and entwining the clients in between. And
It's interesting that when we're stressed out, something we say, you know, could be perceived totally different. I mean, the meaning of what we say and the way it's heard, I mean, I'd like 2 totally different things. Like I say, you know, black and she hear white, you know what I mean? It's amazing how when the stress level builds up that we don't communicate at all, you know? And that's when I just keep on thinking about the fact that all the stress that created in the home, I think part of it is because we have relatively a small home. We don't have space. Like, one of the things I have learned to do is to walk in the patio, you know, be by myself, to wind down.
Just get away
you know,
from.
So get away from everybody, you know, and then wind down. And because when you're tired, you know, when you work so hard all day, and you go home, your perception is warped. You know, I mean, you want to eat one thing, and, you know, the other person, I mean, we all have different habits. And those habits don't agree. In other words, you know, I may want to eat one thing, you know, my fiancée maybe wanting something else, and she thinks that I want what she wants, and she complains about, you know, I'm not appreciating what she cooks and things like that. It's amazing how the stress is built up. But basically, I think that what I have learned is that if people really care about each other and they try to communicate, the stress in the home can be resolved, you know. Again, let me see here. One of the things that I have noticed is that, especially in California, our needs are very complex, and isn't it? Because, like, you know, I mean, for example, you know, I have, you know, a decent home, you know, where we stay. You know, we each, I mean, my fiancée and I have 1 bedroom, and my 2 daughters, each one has 1 room, and each one of us has a car, you know. So in other words, you know, we materialistically we have a lot of things compared to, like, you know, 10 people living in 1 room in Hong Kong, or, you know, in a very crowded place. So the physical place by itself is not an absolute thing, you know, because our needs here, I'm sure, are much more complex than somebody living in Nebraska or, you know, in Idaho.
You know, we take for granted the materialistic aspects of our lives. We feel that a lot of times that is what makes us happy and everything. My feeling is that if you go back to the traditional things, you know, like the simple things like communicating, like establishing some healthy boundaries for one another, like writing down on a piece of paper exactly what your needs and wants are, you know, those types of things are the things that you can do to overcome those materialistic things that are so, like, you know, things that people kind of like push aside and say, well, I have that, so everybody should be happy around here. You'll find that in many cases when a person is in a well-to-do type of situation, that's when the stress level is higher, because the communication is nil. There's not a communication situation. And so if we just go back to the basics, the simple things, then that tends to eliminate a lot of the, and brings in back the old values that tend to occur.
What are the your common goals that you share in the near future? I mean, are you going to do something together that you enjoy?
We're buying a home together.
Okay.
Good.
We're both leaving homes and have one jointly together.
Yeah.
So he can pull his clothes out of the trunks.
Yeah.
And he can have a room of his own, which is
see.
almost like your patio, a place to go hide out. Because he's also somebody that doesn't have any children like you and is now inheriting a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
My children are 13, 16, and 18. And he needs some space. He's used to having some space to himself. To be able to unwind from work, so he doesn't bring it home to us.
What were the values that you did not agree upon, or created some friction?
Some of the values, probably the hours in which we both work.
Well,
I think that's
not really a value. That's some aspect of coping with.
time. I don't know. I'd have to think
So
about
you
that
agree on the basic values?
one. We agree on basic values.
Yeah. Is he came from some background that you do? You're from a Jewish family,
I'm
right?
from a Jewish family. He's from a Catholic family, but he agrees with the fact that the children go to a Jewish Sunday school. But my
Yeah.
son goes to a very Catholic private school during the day, so
Yeah.
no, there really isn't a problem with values.
Yeah, right.
He comes from a strong family, and his parents have been married for a long time.
Yeah. For me and my fiancée, we have very strong commitment to the basic religious values. We're both practicing Buddhist, and they are really the foundation for our home right now. And because when we get along as a couple, the kids kind of move along too. I mean, when we have this friction between us, then immediately the whole thing just falls apart, So the kids really need the parents to get along, And when we don't get along, I mean, initially when I came into the family, I tried very hard to get along with the kids, And that did not work because, really I have to get along with Amy and my fiancée, and the kids will get along with us, you see. Anyway, are we running out of time? Anyway, let's see here. So your situation here right now, you have shared custody, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Going back to the value situation, again, I think that spirituality or worshiping together is really important. I also feel that honesty, it really has a lot to do with creating a harmony type of situation for the kids, and allowing the kids and yourself to be open enough to share what's going on inside of you. I've learned that recently through my existing relationship that's really important, to allow the kids to be a part of the relationship that you're building with another person, and for them to grow with it. I've always sheltered my kids from situations like that, and now that I find that that's really beneficial today. My kids need to have a say-so in my life, and not be apart from it.
Right. I have learned that as long as we agree on the big values of to make the foundation, how we think about mutual respect, the sense of work ethics, a sense of morality, as far as, Amy and I have to be mutually respectful to each other. And that is something that we really had to work on for a very long time, because we came from the same background, but we have lived separately, independently as single individuals for a very long time. And those are the things that it took us a long time to work and to agree upon. But once the basic values are agreed upon, then everything can become very smooth. Yeah. Anyway.
It helps you handle stressful situations.
Yeah. Because actually, the stress in the home can sometimes affect a lot, our performance at work, and vice versa, and that can create, a tremendous misery. Anyway, it seems like we're already running out of time. It's half an hour goes by so quickly. I appreciate your presence here tonight and share with us some of your feelings about, stress in the home. I'm hoping that I learned that from you that, again, even though there's a lot of stress all the time, but when people stick together through, like you say, thick and thin, and work things out, a family can stay together. And that is the basis of our emotional happiness. Because as we know, the model now is the broken home, and that is where a lot of suffering and sicknesses come into play. Anyway, this is Dr. Vu. We have been talking about stress in the home. Our show is America's Healthcare Crisis, and it intends to offer a forum for the expression of ideas that may contribute into the improving the efficiency of our healthcare delivery system. Actually, we should have talked about some, relationship in terms of with the doctors and how they took care of our stress, but didn't have time to do that. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this show, and we look forward to see you again. Our next topic of discussion will be stress in the workplace. This is Dr. Hung Vu. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Do you love someone? Have you ever cared? Do you miss someone? Have you ever shared? Do you need someone to always be there when you feel lonesome and deep in despair? Do you need someone to dry up your tears? Do you need someone to always be near? Do you have someone to stay through the years?